everyone. I am Robert DeMauro, and I'm a longtime board member of the High School of Fashion Industries. In the industry, I am a lifestyle commentator, and one of my longtime dear friends and client is Mara Urschel. Many, of course, know Mara Urschel is the owner of Kleinfeld, and of course, you know from Say Yes to the Dress. Well, the mastermind who creates that magical experience that you all see is with us for this session that we're all looking forward to. Mastermind Jacques Vigneault. Jacques, welcome, and so glad you're able to join us for this discussion. So please explain to everyone, what is your title and what does that title mean for you?
I am the Vice President Creative Director at Kleinfeld. I've been with Kleinfeld for 16 years. What does it mean for me? Anything that the experience, the visual experience of Kleinfeld, from like the window, how the stores itself, the physical store, from the customer's experience, I'm in charge of. So from the entrance, even from the street, from the outside, we have to stay somewhat on brand. So I make sure that everything is up to snuff and kind of like all bridal, basically, yes.
Yeah, and you know, to that point, the way you because many people might think that visual merchandising or window display is just about creating a beautiful image, but I'm glad you touched on to the important point. It's also about the conveying the message of the brand.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important part of it. So please explain what that might mean. So it's not just creating a beautiful image, it's also, you know, as I say, conveying the message of the brand.
Yeah, it's very important to stay on brand, to know the brand, to convey the brand, to understand your customers. So it's like from your product to who it is dedicated to. I had many conversations with Mara when I first started this part of my job, because I joined Kleinfeld not as the creative director. I was way past when. I was on a contract for 6 months, and then I joined as a creative director later on. Many discussion with Mara, what she thought of the brand, and we had exchange, and then we came to conclusion what we wanted to say to people. And you know, it is as much of what you say as what you don't say. There's the do's and the don'ts, and what we think about the bride of the world, the bride itself, our customers. We have a very wide selection of customers. It's very large, especially since now for a long time we have had the show, so they expanded the brands tremendously. So it's very important to stay on brand and to understand your customers. So this is where I would be for something.
And you know, I think another way to think of it also is I always think about this idea that every aspect of a brand comes back to telling that story. Yeah. So in your case, you're dealing with the windows, the minute someone walks into the store, the minute someone gets into the large salon part of the venue, but then also in your case, you're also dealing with the television show.
Yes.
And again, that's an extension of the brand, but it keeps coming back to telling that story. And now we're living in this very different time as well. So you're also how that conveys in a virtual aspect. So touch on that.
Yes, the show specifically as not dictated, but it has influenced a lot how we would talk about the brand, obviously, because a lot of our customers will have an experience of the store on TV to the show. So that experience, we can manipulate that experience a little bit to a point. We don't want to disappoint them. Like what they see on TV, we want to enhance it and make it even better. And Mara is someone who likes to take chances as well. She's not someone who's going to go on the beaten path. She loves to go way out there. So this is how why we communicate so well, because it's really easy to work with someone like that. But I started from what I knew about the store first, because when I started, we didn't have the show. And then we ended up the show that started to somewhat define us a little bit more to our customers and to the general public. And so in a sense, it's like I have to keep in mind that there's the people who have seen it on the show, there's the people who experience the store, there's people that experience us through like just our social media or our online presence. So it's important that the story remains the same, or in the same vessel, basically. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm glad you keep saying experience, because it is really about overall experience, whether it's online, whether it's actually in the store, whether it's the TV show, it's all, or the experience of going in and shopping for a wedding gown. Again, it's all about experience. So let me also touch on, because you did bring this up, that you've been with Kleinfeld for 16 years. So I think it'd be important to tell your journey, how you got to this point, your education, and then you said 16 years ago, and how that started. So please touch on that.
I first studied in fine arts, like way back when, and I did many things like a lot of people in fine arts. I mean, like you're called to do so many different things to your life. And you realize that every experience would enhance the next experience. So at one point, I did a lot of space planning.
Space planning? Space planning?
This is what my second part of joining Kleinfeld was first the space planning of the store, meaning that Kleinfeld had moved from Brooklyn to New York.
Yeah, actually, that's right, because what you're saying is important, because most people remember in New York history, Kleinfeld was in Brooklyn, and the move to Manhattan was a major part of the evolution of Kleinfeld. So that's right. So you joined.
In Brooklyn, it was really a destination store, meaning that if you did not have to go there, if you were not going to get married or something like that, you had very little chances to go there, because it was in Brooklyn on Fifth Avenue, and at the time, Brooklyn was not as well known. I mean, it was well known, but it was not as desirable place to go as it is today. So when they decided to move to Manhattan in 2005, they had to have a physical presence. This is the first time that Kleinfeld had really to match the name, the physical store had to match the name Kleinfeld, really. So we had to bring it not one notch, but 10 notch higher than they were over there in Brooklyn. So, and my first job was really completely technical with them, was basically trying to fit in a store that was really designed as a store. At the time, it was 175 to 180 employees in a store like we have this now, and making sure that most of our staff would come with us. In the bridal industry, as you know, because you know all the fashion industry, Robert, people behind stage are very important. The Soars, the Peters, all of these people, these men and women that have been working there for decades are treasures. So it's very important that they come with, it was very important for Mara and Ronnie that they come with the company. So we had to make sure that we need a space that they would want to travel. And keep in mind that most of those people do live in Brooklyn or Staten Island, so it would be a longer journey for them to come to Manhattan. So to try to convince them, we have to make a place that was very welcoming to them and fitted their need. And the bridal industry is very specific, so the needs were very, very specific. So I had to readapt the plan that was drawn first by an architect, and kind of reworked it that it would be able to adapt everyone, or to bring everybody that came from Brooklyn, basically. So that was the first goal. And after that, that was a plan that like for 6 months to 8 months. And after something like 5 months, Mara and Ronnie asked me if I want to stay for another 6 months. And then after that, I became the creative director. And then because I did for fine arts, I'd done as well a lot of visual in other places. So they start to blend together.
See, and I think you're touching on something important, that you're bringing all these different disciplines to your role. And in terms of the famous Kleinfeld windows, which are your baby, hello, because really, I think I'm trying to remember, really the Kleinfeld windows are really your creation. The idea of the fame of the Kleinfeld Windows. How did that really kind of come about? I mean, to where they are now? I mean,
Well, my approach to any project, I mean, like when they first offered this to me, is like first to step back and look what I have in my hand and start really to think about the core of any project, like what's the hub of it. And my first thought was about like, okay, what is the brand and what is the bride? Or like, you know, who is my customers? Who am I talking to? Well, New York Windows, New York. I mean, first of all, let's say Windows is in the world the cheapest advertising you could ever do, because you know you spend money, but compared to like doing an ad somewhere, right, or it's passerby, and it's great. It creates a very organic street traffic, a very nice. It's you cannot like predict it really. It just happens, you know. So there's a beauty into this. It was important to understand like who was the customers, and then what is a wedding? What is a wedding dress? And that it is not like selling a T-shirt or like a pair of shoes or like it's nothing else like this. So how many story can you talk or can you tell? So you could tell the story of the product itself. You could tell the story of the wedding. You could tell the story of union or anything. Like there's so many story when you sit down and think about what is a wedding dress or bride, that you can come from so many different angles. So I thought like there's a million of possibilities. So we did windows about like crazy window. We did a window at one point about a bowerbird, and a bowerbird is a bird that every when they want to mate, they make these huge arch, and they display. It's a male bird. They do a huge arch and they display. They just pick up some trash. It's like usually like blue trash that just put in the front to attract the female, and the female comes in, look at the arch. If she likes the arch, she goes to the arch, and then they mate. I thought that's a great window. So we did a window about the bowerbird, and in the window we wrote all the definition of the bowerbird in big letters and highlighting a few elements that relate to the wedding and the industry of marriage. And it's interesting because some people didn't get it. Some people just saw nice arch and that was it. Some people actually remember a professor from NYU who was actually, you know, studying like birds and everything like that, completely got it. And to me, it's like, well, that was worth it. That was my customer that day. That was just that couple. It was a man and a woman. That was like, okay, I want to talk to these people and to the rest. So you have so many angles you can come up to, like for Windows or for this space actually.
And also what I want to bring up is, and I explain this all the time, you know, Kleinfeld is not a regular store. Yeah. The shopping experience is a very different type of experience. For one thing, it's by appointment. Exactly. And it's, you know, going to buy a garment that the person will wear once, more than likely, in their life. That's a very different process than going into any other retailer and buying something in a very different manner. So again, you're also creating an environment for that kind of an experience as well. I think that you have,
if you put yourself in the shoe of a bride, you know, and we never really know the full story of any bride. I mean, we don't know her family. We might meet her mother or sister or best friend, but we don't really know the dynamic. We just could guess it. And here she is usually, you know, the bride has this thing about like she's this is her day, and there's so much that's on her shoulder that day.
Oh yeah, so it's a whole psychological experience. Yes.
Exactly. So you know, we try to be very aware and visually or like anyway like that. It's a big day for her. It's a big day. There's a lot of load on her shoulder. There's a lot of expected from her. So it's a customer that's stressed out, and it's a customer that's very emotional.
And also when she's trying on the garment, I'm saying garment, okay? When she's trying on the garment, she's coming out and literally she's on parade in front of all her whatever family's there or whatever to shop. So let me bring up this because very fortunately, you are in the environment where the magic happens. So that is your shop studio. Yeah. How do you like to refer to it? Is it your shop? Is it your studio? Because you know, so I mean, because I think that's kind of important to see that that's where the magic happens, you know, in your face there.
See, like a tidbit of it is like this. It changes every day. It's a constant move. Yeah. The studio is like is the best part of, not the best part. It's a great part of, like, you know, being in the arts is like when you have the space to create. And I'm very grateful that Kleinfeld gave me that, you know, like really a lot of space. And we do a lot of experiment. Not all of it end up to be a thing. So we're learning. I mean, even, you know, you learn through your failure a lot in anything. So having a studio like this to work, it's tremendous gift. Yes.
Let me ask you this. So on average, how many, I'll say this, weeks planning typically is there for a window? I mean,
yeah,
I guess it depends also, but
well, like usually, I mean, it's pretty, I don't want to be caught, but it's really not really a straight answer on this, because depending on the window, like the Christmas window, sometimes we would plan and plan and plan and plan, and I've been known to change my mind and then change the whole thing. And I remember, like, there was a window I changed my mind 5 times. I kept on changing and changing and changing until, like, it was like 3 weeks before Christmas. I said, okay, I nailed it. This is it. Usually a Christmas window would be planned way ahead of the game. Like right now, for instance, I have like 3 windows in mind, but I work with the rest of the store, with the marketing department and with, you know, like the merchandising department and all these departments.
Wait, hold on. You're saying something important. You're saying something very important, that when you're doing your planning, you're actually also in sync with other divisions of Kleinfeld. Please explain that, because I think it's very important for people to hear that. So it's not, yes, there's your ideas and thoughts, but again, in terms of everything coming together for that one Kleinfeld story. So please explain that.
Like, you know, like sometimes I really have to consult about, of course, with Ma and Ronnie, but with the marketing department, as well the merchandising department.
So, that's important. So with marketing, with marketing, go ahead. Who else?
You know, the buyers, because you know what we're buying, and like, you know, like a window is not a city. You're not going to necessarily like or anything. You're not going to show the product that you're selling. You want to show something, something far off there, or something that's going to attract the eye. So they always say, like, you know,
in fact, Jacques, there was an old phrase that Mara and I used to joke about, is you show the brightly colored jacket to sell the white pants.
I say the same thing. I say you buy the you show the suit to sell the tie. You know.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, so you really have to, you know, people will not stop, will not look at something that's boring usually, and you have to put it in an environment that people will stop and they're gonna maybe question, maybe like it, maybe dislike it, but there's gonna be a conversation in their mind or with their friend. So I do consult a lot with the PR marketing department and the buyer as well, what's on the dock, and as well what event that we have, because another thing that we do at Kleinfeld, I forgot to tell you about that, aside from being a store, we host a tremendous amount of events.
Right.
Because, you know, bridal wedding is an event, so therefore we partnership with so many tiers of the event planning of a wedding, and during COVID we stopped, and sorry, I'm just gonna stop this. Okay, I'll call you back in a minute. Okay,
tell them we're busy.
Yeah, sorry. We're busy. So, the event planning is very the event planning, we do a lot of events as well, so this is another thing that of course my department does, all of the event. We do the store, we do the whole thing. So, but in any case, the window are dictated by all of that stuff. So, for instance, right now I have 3 windows in mind, and it really depends on the next step for Kleinfeld, especially during COVID. Everybody's uncertain. Nobody really knows where we are going at exactly. So, I always have to have at least 2 windows in mind in case something doesn't work.
In fact, touch on that, because the world we're in now, and I know that how the pivot or shift that you all had to do. So just in general, what changes have you made in the environment in this era?
The physical store itself, because we used to have as you said previously, it's by appointment. So we used to have a party for one bride, an average of 5 to 8 people per bride. So imagine like a bride walks in and she walks in with 5 people. So if you have 28 appointments, if you have 20 appointments, do the math, that's a lot of people. Now, obviously, because of COVID, we restricted the number of people that can join a bride, like to 1 or 2. And as well as like, the schedules are the same. There's a lot of state that have been, that haven't been traveling or, for whatever reason, for COVID, because of COVID. So therefore, and for safety, we have redivided the store with plexiglass. And
Right.
we had to make it in a way that you could still see the entire store still. And that the experience of the bride was not really changed. So the first part of COVID was like, for me, I went back to space planning, because I just, like a lot of people at Kleinfeld, and a lot of people, you juggle.
But this is important.
Yeah.
See, this is important. Space planning came back into your work with this. So again, your past experiences or so isn't that terrific? Yeah.
So it's really, whoops, sorry, I lost you.
Oh no.
No, okay. No, I didn't lose you.
Technology.
Okay, fine.
Mamma mia.
Okay.
Ma che casino qui con sta cazzo tecnologia. Mamma mia.
So yes, during COVID, we had to redesign the store inside. And I'm sure a lot of people had to do that, and we had to do it fast. And remember, like, at the beginning, nobody knew exactly where we're going. We luckily, we ordered a lot of material to do it just a week or 2 weeks before.
Because plexiglass sold out. Sold out. Yeah. Right.
So, and we had to hunker down and we had to make it happen. And that's what we do usually. I mean, this is one of the field of creative is you have to make it happen. There's what you have in your hand. This is what you're going to have to use. So we had purchased quite a bit and we used pretty much everything. We divide the upstairs, the downstairs, and even we had to board it up the store at one point and reopen it and board it up because of safety and all that stuff. So that was during COVID, my first part of COVID. And after, and of course, we were on a Zoom meeting every day on top of that, just to see how the business was going because everybody was affected. And because Kleinfeld is by appointment, we have a department that had to call all the bride to cancel the appointment. And a lot of wedding, I mean, it was a disaster. All of the wedding, all the dresses supposed to be picked up, all the dress that come from designer that they are supposed to go now to be tried by brides, to be like altered and all that stuff. So like every other business, it's a big mayhem. But because our business is so based on like a purchase of a dress and a wedding in a year from now, there's an entire leeway of product that's basically changes part of the store. So so that my first job during COVID was really like to reestablish, the setup of the store. Then, so all the windows that had been planned, and we had a big window that we had took like, I think 3 months to purchase and to try to make it happen because sometimes windows not only do have to connect with the marketing department and the buyers and I have to connect with the designer.
Well, okay, I'm glad you're bringing that up because I was going to ask you also, in your planning, how do you also collaborate with the different designers? Because I'm sure different designers is different experience.
I mean, some designers are very, very much of a, especially at the beginning, some designers were really like, like behind me, not behind me, but really, really following me to make sure that I did not say something wrong about their product. Let's put it this way. Mm-hmm. And now that I know many of them, it's pretty much like,
they trust you.
But still, I'd like to be on the same page than they are. If there's something that they really think that it's not appropriate for their dress or their product, there's a discussion that can happen here now. But
I think that's the important thing too. Again, in terms of that designer's business, it's how also, again, telling the story, coming back to the brand, coming back to the DNA of the brand. Right. In their case, their brand as well, and how that fits within the Kleinfeld experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So you really have to try to marry both of them, and again, be aware of the ultimate deal is the client, is the customers, who is like what do they see? Yeah,
Jacques, let me ask you this, because when we have these discussions in terms of interest for the students, and look, I know you love what you do. What would you say to students about your kind of work? What advice would you give them, of course, but also how you might even convince them to go into that kind of work, in terms of that?
Yeah.
Like you being a cheerleader for your kind
Yeah.
of work. What might you tell them?
I think that the creative field at this level, of doing the stores and the window, it is very important that you understand the brand, that you understand the product, and that you understand your customers. Yes, or the client who you're talking to. But it's a field that is so rich that you can use everything in your life, in your thing on your living, all your experiences. There's nothing that is a bad experience. Everything could be useful to you. So it's very interesting for someone who really loves that there's not a single day that resembles the other one before or the one of tomorrow. It's ever changing, it's ever evolving. So it demands that you're always very awake, that you're very forward looking.
Mhm.
But it's a very exciting field. It's a super exciting field. It's a field that, again, you don't get bored. There's never a boring day. It's always a challenge. It's not always. Sometimes the thing that you think would be a boring assignment, or a party that you don't really want to do because it's inside and you've done it before, or a window that think, oh well, this is designers. It's not really what I want to talk about. But then when you start to work on it, you discover things that amazes you. So I think that my pitch for that type of work is there's no one day that resembles the others. It's always great. It's very exciting. It's like your line of work. It's like, you're in fashion. Every day, everything evolves, everything moves. There's a sense that it keeps you young forever. So if you start this career as that age of the student, if you start that age of 18 or 19 or 17, I mean, you'll stay that age all your life, because it's really forces you to always renew yourself.
Well, I always like to clarify. I'm in the information business.
Yeah.
So, and Mara and I talk about this, and because remember, Mara and I know each other for quite a long time, and she knew me originally in that capacity as well. So for me, it's also about taking in information and hearing and experiencing information. But I'm glad you're bringing up what you're saying about your experience, that one of the benefits, joys of what you do is that you're bringing in all of your life experiences into the work you do. And I think that's an important thing for them to hear, truly.
Yeah, it's everything that you live, or everything that you're aware of, everything that could be somewhat of a use to what you want to say. And it's like, for instance, right now, when we think about this time we're living in with COVID, and we know that a lot of people that spend way more time at home than they used to. So therefore, there's some field that have been exploding, like Netflix is, it's a field that has been like, people are watching more Netflix than ever before, although they did a lot. So then we go and look like, well, what's on Netflix? What do people watch right now? What does relate to our industry? What are those girls likes to watch? And to me, then I go and watch it. It's like, what are the colors that are in that? What are the story that are being told? What's the entire visual? And so when you start to marry what we do to what our people are watching, then there's somewhat of a communication right there with our customers.
And also what's going on socially. All important unrest and all those important messages. Again, how that ties into the overall, because listen, fashion is not just about clothes. Fashion is an expression of what's going on in society. So I
was just mentioning before that the window that we have right now is about Zoom. So what we did is I did some snapshot of all of our Zoom call every day, and we did painting from that. And so therefore it's like, people on Zoom, especially at the beginning, are very unguarded. So they have these very funny poses, you know, the famous, like the rating the background and all that stuff. So we did a window that's very, and on top of that, we started a new, not a new branch, but kind of, we're doing a lot of a virtual appointment now, because a lot of people cannot travel. So we started to do virtual appointments. So all of this tied in with our expansion of our business because these are Zoom appointments. So people purchasing online, and actually, like, a lot of them living part of their life online now for the time being.
Yeah.
And I think that this part past COVID will still go on to an extent. You know, we'll have learned a new skill, and I'm sure a lot of people will be more comfortable with it. I mean, I think before it was like more like a few people. I mean, it was big, but it was fewer people. And now some people, I think, we're just going to hit the Zoom button and just have a Zoom party when they cannot be there. Be natural.
Or or just virtual activity in general.
Exactly.
So you know, Jacques, very fortunately, you know the school very well. Bless your heart, you've really been knowing the school for about like 10 years now. You've participated as a judge in the bridal competition, which is now a bridal class, quite wonderfully.
What the students do,
Yeah, and also over the years, you've gotten to see the work coming out of the students in the school. So I think that's also kind of wonderful that you are very familiar with what goes on in the school. So that said, just some some closing comments of any thoughts you have for the students about just whatever you feel you might want to express.
Well, I would say, first of all, I think the school is a wonderful place to be. I mean, it's amazing what it offers. I've seen the product of the competition that you do for the bridal gown. It's amazing what comes out of the students. So I think it's a very rich environment to learn. I think that as far as like doing creative and being like a creative director, and the comments says, you have to, if you have in you that you really want your life to be exciting. I'm not saying that other careers are not exciting, yes, but I think that for if you want a life that every day is not the same, every day you're challenged to take all of your experiences, the smallest to the biggest, and bring it to work and develop from that. Being a creative director is, for Kleinfeld anyhow, it's a great place to be.